You're sitting at dinner with your college roommate, and he mentions, casually, that he just hit $300,000 in his investment accounts. You almost choke on your drink. You make more money than he does. You've had the same career trajectory, you graduated the same year, but when you check your own accounts later that night, you've got $18,000 saved and about $4,000 in checking. You start doing the math in your head, trying to figure out what he's doing differently, and you can't. He doesn't live like he's depriving himself. He's not driving a beater car or living with roommates. He just somehow figured out something about money that you haven't. And that feeling, that specific feeling of what am I missing, is what's going to keep you up at night. My name is Tom, and I spend way too much time thinking about why smart people stay broke. If you're someone who makes decent money but can't figure out why you're not getting ahead, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Look, I need to tell you something that's probably going to annoy you. For the last 5 years, I've tracked every single dollar I've earned and spent. Not with some fancy app that rounds everything to the nearest $5. I mean, every dollar, every coffee, every subscription, every it's just 20 bucks purchase. And what I discovered completely changed how I think about building wealth. But here's the thing. This isn't going to be another video telling you to cut out your morning latte. That advice is garbage. And honestly, it's insulting. A $4 coffee isn't why you're not wealthy. According to a 2023 study from the Federal Reserve, the median American household has a net worth of around $142,000. Sounds decent, right? Except that number includes home equity. Take that out, and the median liquid net worth is closer to $12,000. $12,000. That's barely 3 months of expenses for most people. So no, your coffee isn't the problem. The problem is something much bigger and much harder to talk about. Here's what most people don't realize. Wealth isn't built by what you don't spend. It's built by what you systematically capture and redirect. And I know that sounds like the same thing, but it's not. Stay with me here. When I started tracking my money in 2019, I was making $68,000 a year. After taxes, that came out to about $4,200 per month. I thought I was pretty financially aware. I had a budget, I knew roughly where my money went, but I decided to track everything for just 1 month to see if I was right. I was not right. You know what I found? I was spending about $650 a month on what I can only describe as financial background noise. That's money that just disappeared. Not on bills, not on groceries, not on anything I could actually point to and say, yeah, that was worth it. $300 on food delivery when I had a full fridge. $180 on subscription services I forgot I had. $120 on impulse purchases at Target because I went there for one thing and left with 8 things. $50 on ATM fees and overdraft charges because I wasn't paying attention. Now you might be thinking, $650 a month doesn't sound that bad. And that's exactly the problem. It doesn't sound bad, but let me show you what that actually costs you. $650 a month is $7,800 a year. If you took that same money and invested it in a simple S&P 500 index fund averaging a 10% annual return, in 30 years, you'd have $1,445,000. Not $1,400,000. $1,445,000 from money you didn't even know you were spending. But here's where it gets really interesting. That calculation assumes you never get a raise, you never increase the amount you invest, and you're starting from zero. Most people watching this aren't starting from zero, and most people will see their income increase over their career. So I made a decision. I was going to track every dollar for an entire year and figure out where my money was actually going. Not where I thought it was going, where it was actually going. Month 1 was humbling. Month 3 was depressing. But month 6 was when everything clicked. Here's what I discovered. Most people think about money in terms of income and expenses. You make X, you spend Y, hopefully X is bigger than Y, and you save the difference. But that framework is completely wrong. That framework is why you're not building wealth. Wealth is built on capture rate. Not savings rate, capture rate. Let me explain the difference, because this is the thing that changed everything for me. Your savings rate is what's left over after you spend. It's passive, it's reactive, it's whatever happens to be there at the end of the month. Your capture rate is what you systematically grab before you have a chance to spend it. It's active, it's intentional, it's automated. When I was focused on my savings rate, I was saving maybe 8% of my income. Some months more, some months less. I'd save $500 1 month. Then 3 months later, I'd have an unexpected expense and I'd pull $400 out. 2 steps forward, 1.5 steps back. After a year, I had maybe $4,000 saved. Better than nothing, but not exactly life-changing. Then I shifted to thinking about capture rate. I set up automatic transfers that happened the day after my paycheck hit, before I paid rent, before I paid bills. Before I had a chance to mentally account for that money as mine to spend, I started with 15% of my net income. For me, that was $630 a month. And here's the psychological shift that matters. When that money left my account automatically, it wasn't a sacrifice. It wasn't me being disciplined. It was just gone. It didn't exist as far as my spending brain was concerned. I had to make my life work on what was left. Now, I know what you're thinking. Tom, I can barely make it through the month now. I can't just automatically transfer 15% of my income into savings. I'd overdraft my account. And look, I get it. But here's the thing. You're already spending that money. You're just spending it on nothing. Let me break this down with real numbers, because this is important. Let's say you make $5,000 a month after taxes. 15% is $750. That goes straight to investments the day after you get paid. Now, you're living on $4,250 a month. Your rent is $1,500. Utilities are $150. Car payment is $300. Insurance is $200. Gas is $150. Groceries are $400. Phone bill is $75. Internet is $60. That's $2,835 in fixed expenses. That leaves you with $1,415 for everything else. For a whole month, that's about $47 a day for food, entertainment, clothing, unexpected expenses, everything. Does that sound impossible? Because according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average American household spends about $5,000 a month total. If you're making $5,000 a month after taxes, you should absolutely be able to live on $4,250. The math works. But most people don't believe the math works because they've never actually tracked where their money goes. They just have this vague feeling that they need every dollar they make. This is where my 5 years of data gets really interesting. In year 1, I captured 15% of my income. That's $10,260. I invested it in a mix of index funds, nothing fancy. By the end of the year, with market growth, I had about $11,000. In year 2, I got a raise. I was now making $76,000, or about $4,700 a month after taxes. Now, here's where most people screw up. They get a raise, and their spending increases by the exact amount of the raise. It's called lifestyle inflation, and it's absolutely brutal for wealth building. I did something different. I increased my capture rate to 20%, but I increased my spending by 0. That meant I was now capturing $940 a month, $11,280 a year. But because my spending stayed the same, it didn't feel like I was sacrificing anything. I just never saw that extra money. By the end of year 2, between my contributions and market returns, I had about $34,000 invested. Not in a savings account earning 0.5%. Invested. Working for me, year 3. Another raise. Now I'm at $84,000, about $5,100 monthly after taxes. Capture rate goes to 25%. That's $1,275 per month going straight to investments, $15,300 per year. My spending still hasn't increased from year 1. End of year 3, I'm at $68,000 invested. Year 4, same salary, but I got a bonus, captured 100% of it. Also optimized my tax situation, which is a whole other video. By end of year 4, I'm at $112,000. Year 5, which just ended, I'm at $92,000 salary, about $5,600 monthly after taxes. Capture rate is 30%, $1,680 per month, $20,160 per year. Plus, I started a side income stream that brings in about $800 a month, and I capture 80% of that. That's another $7,680 per year. End of year 5, my investment accounts are worth $173,000. Let me say that again. In 5 years, I went from basically zero to $173,000 invested. I didn't inherit money. I didn't win the lottery. I didn't make $200,000 a year. I just systematically captured money before I could spend it. Now here's what most people don't realize about having $173,000 invested. At a 4% withdrawal rate, which is considered conservative, that's $6,920 a year in passive income. That's $576 a month, forever. Without touching the principal, but it gets better. Because I'm not withdrawing anything. I'm still contributing. At my current capture rate of $27,840 a year in contributions, plus an 8% average annual return on my existing balance, I'll hit $500,000 in 7 more years. I'll be 40 years old with $500,000 invested. At that point, at a 4% withdrawal rate, That's $20,000 a year in passive income. That's enough to cover my rent and utilities forever, which means every dollar I earn from that point forward is actually mine. I could work part-time, I could start a business, I could take a year off to travel. I have options. And if I just keep going, keep capturing the same percentage, by the time I'm 50, I'll have $1.6 million. At 4%, that's $64,000 a year in passive income, more than my current salary after taxes. I could retire at 50. Or I could keep working and have an absolutely absurd amount of money by 60. This is the power of systematic capture. Not budgeting, not depriving yourself. Systematically capturing money before your spending brain sees it. But here's the thing that took me years to understand. The math is actually the easy part. The hard part is the psychology. Look, our brains are not wired for long-term thinking. We evolved to survive day to day, not to build wealth over decades. When you see money in your checking account, your brain categorizes it as money I have to spend. When you get a raise, your brain immediately starts calculating what you can now afford. New apartment, nicer car, better restaurants, more vacations. This isn't a character flaw. This is just how human brains work. The average person experiences something called mental accounting, where we put money into different mental categories and treat it differently depending on the category. Money in your checking account feels like spending money. Money in an investment account feels like untouchable future money. The trick is to use this quirk of psychology to your advantage. You make the capture automatic so your spending brain never sees it. You don't have to rely on discipline or willpower, it just happens. There's actually research on this. A study from the National Bureau of Economic Research found that people who use automatic savings programs save 5 times more than people who manually transfer money to savings. 5 times, not 5% more, 5 times more. Because when savings is optional, when it requires a conscious decision every month, most people don't do it, or they do it inconsistently. But there's another psychological piece that nobody talks about. The reason most people never build wealth isn't because they don't make enough money. It's because they don't believe they're the kind of person who builds wealth. I'm serious. Think about your relationship with money right now. Do you see yourself as someone who will be wealthy? Or do you see yourself as someone who will always be kind of struggling, always just getting by? Because here's the thing. If you see yourself as someone who's always just getting by, your behavior will match that identity. You'll make decisions that keep you getting by. You'll spend the raises, you'll keep the same financial habits, you'll stay exactly where you are. But if you start seeing yourself as someone who's building wealth, even if you haven't built it yet, your behavior changes. You start making different decisions. You start thinking longer term. You start optimizing for your future self instead of just your current self. This is what happened to me around month 6 of tracking. I stopped seeing myself as someone who was bad with money or not a finance person. I started seeing myself as someone who was building wealth. And once that identity shift happened, the behaviors became easier. I'm going to share something kind of embarrassing. Before I started this journey, I used to tell myself I was not good at math as an excuse for why I didn't invest. It's absurd, right? I have a college degree. I can do percentages. But I had this story that investing was complicated and I wasn't smart enough to figure it out. The truth is, I wasn't afraid of the math. I was afraid of confronting how much time I had wasted. I was afraid of realizing that I could have been doing this years earlier and I wasn't. So it was easier to tell myself I didn't understand it. Once I got over that psychological block, I realized investing is actually incredibly simple. You don't need to pick stocks. You don't need to time the market. You don't need to understand complex financial instruments. You just need to consistently buy index funds and leave them alone. That's it. That's the whole secret. But our culture makes wealth building seem so complicated because there's an entire industry that profits from your confusion. Financial advisors who charge you 1% annually to pick mutual funds that underperform index funds. Investment apps with confusing interfaces that make you feel like you need expertise. Personal finance gurus selling you courses on how to hack the stock market. Here's the truth. The people who get wealthy do boring things consistently over long periods of time. They spend less than they make. They invest the difference in diversified index funds. They don't touch it. They do this for decades. That's it. There's no secret. There's no trick. The reason this seems like it can't be true is because it's not sexy. You can't sell a course on buy index funds every month and wait 30 years. There's no drama in that. But you absolutely can sell a course on day trading strategies or real estate flipping or cryptocurrency investing because those feel exciting and complicated and like they require special knowledge. But according to data from Fidelity, the best performing investors in their system are people who forgot they had accounts. Dead people. Literally, deceased account holders performed better than active traders. Why? Because they didn't sell when the market dipped. They didn't try to time anything. They just held. Now you might be thinking, okay, Tom, this all sounds great, but I can't capture 15% of my income right now. I have debt, I have expenses, I'm barely making it as it is. And look, I hear you. Let me address this directly because it's important. If you have high interest debt, credit cards charging you 18% or more, your first priority is to obliterate that debt. Not pay it off slowly, obliterate it. Because here's the math. If you have $5,000 in credit card debt at 18% interest and you're only making minimum payments, you'll pay about $2,000 in interest over time. That's $2,000 that could have become $40,000 over 30 years if invested. So here's what you do. You still capture money, but you redirect it toward debt elimination. Start with 5% if that's all you can do. That's better than zero. Pay minimums on everything except your highest interest debt, then attack that one with everything you've got. Once it's gone, roll that payment into the next debt. Keep going until you're debt-free. This is called the avalanche method, and mathematically, it's the optimal strategy. Some people prefer the snowball method, where you pay off smallest balances first because it feels psychologically rewarding. That's fine too. The best debt payoff method is the one you'll actually stick with. But here's what you can't do. You can't just keep making minimum payments forever while you wait for things to get better. They won't get better. The debt will compound and grow, and you'll be stuck in the exact same place 5 years from now, except older and more frustrated. Once you're debt-free, which might take a year or 2 years or 3 years, depending on how much debt you have, then you shift into wealth-building mode. You take all that money you were putting toward debt and you redirect it into investments. Your expenses haven't changed, you're already used to living without that money, so it's not a sacrifice. This is another psychological trick. When you pay off debt, you have a choice. You can either increase your spending by the amount you were paying on debt, or you can maintain your current lifestyle and redirect that money. Most people do the first thing without even thinking about it, but the people who build wealth do the second thing. Let me give you another concrete example. Let's say you have $15,000 in credit card debt at 18% interest. You decide to pay an extra $300 per month beyond the minimum. At that rate, you'll have it paid off in about 4 years. 4 years feels like forever, I know. But here's the thing. 4 years is going to pass whether you pay off the debt or not. The question is, do you want to be 4 years older with no debt? Or 4 years older still making the same payments? Once that debt is gone, you take that $300 per month and you start investing it. $3,600 a year. At 8% annual returns, in 20 years, that's $177,000. That's the real cost of staying in debt. Not just the interest you're paying, the opportunity cost of what that money could become. Now let's talk about something uncomfortable. Income. Look, I'm going to be real with you. There is a limit to how much wealth you can build on an average salary. You can absolutely build financial security. You can absolutely retire comfortably. But if you want to build serious wealth, the kind of wealth where you're not worried about money anymore, you probably need to increase your income at some point. This doesn't mean you need to make $200,000 a year. But if you're making $35,000 and you're supporting a family, the math is just really hard. After basic expenses, there's not much left to capture. So here's what I did. In year 2 of my tracking experiment, I realized I had maximized my capture rate at my current income. I could either stay where I was and slowly build wealth, or I could focus on increasing my income. I spent 3 months learning a new skill that was valuable in my industry. I networked. I applied for new positions. I got a new job that paid 15% more. Then 2 years later, I did it again. Not because I hated my job, because I understood that my income was the biggest lever I had to pull. Here's something from the Pew Research Center that really stuck with me. Workers who stay with the same employer for more than 2 years earn 50% less over their lifetime compared to workers who strategically change jobs. 50%. That's not a typo. Your current employer has very little incentive to give you significant raises. They're already getting your labor at your current salary. Why would they pay you more? But a new employer is competing for your talent. They have to offer you more to get you to leave your current position. I'm not saying you should job hop every year, but I am saying you should be looking at market rates for your role every 18 to 24 months. If you're being underpaid, you should ask for a raise. If they say no, you should be open to leaving. This is hard psychologically because we get attached to our jobs. We make friends. We get comfortable. We tell ourselves stories about loyalty. But here's the thing. Your employer is not loyal to you. They will lay you off the second it makes financial sense. You need to look out for yourself. And when you do get that raise, when you do increase your income, remember what we talked about. Don't inflate your lifestyle. Capture that increase. Make it invisible to your spending brain. Let me tell you about the most powerful wealth-building concept I've discovered in 5 years of tracking. It's called the gap. The gap is the difference between what you earn and what you spend. When you're starting out, this gap is tiny. Maybe $200 a month, maybe less. But every time you increase your income without increasing your spending, the gap widens. In year 1, my gap was about $600 a month. In year 5, my gap is $2,400 a month. Same lifestyle, same apartment, same car, same spending on groceries and entertainment. But my gap has quadrupled. This is how wealth is actually built. Not by making enormous sacrifices, not by living like you're broke when you're not, by slowly, steadily widening the gap between your income and your spending. And here's the beautiful thing about the gap. Once it gets wide enough, you stop feeling stressed about money. An unexpected car repair doesn't devastate you. A medical bill doesn't send you into panic mode. You have room. You have breathing space. You have options. This is what financial security actually feels like. It's not having $1 million in the bank. It's having a wide enough gap that life's inevitable problems don't crater you. So let me give you the actual action steps. Not theory, not inspiration, actual concrete things you need to do. Step 1, track everything for 1 month. Not with a budgeting app that makes you categorize things. Just write down every single thing you spend money on. Don't judge it. Don't change your behavior. Just observe. Step 2, look at your tracking and ask yourself honestly, which of these purchases actually improved my life? Not which ones felt good in the moment. Which ones actually mattered? You're going to find that most of your spending is invisible. It's not making you happy. It's not serving a purpose. It's just happening. Step 3, calculate your capture rate. Take your monthly after-tax income and multiply by 0.15. That's your target. If you can't do 15% right now because of debt or because your expenses are genuinely too high, start with 5%. Do something. Step 4, set up automatic transfers the day after your paycheck hits. Not the end of the month, the beginning. Before you see it, before you spend it. Make it automatic. Step 5, open a brokerage account if you don't have one. Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab, doesn't matter. Buy a total market index fund, VTI or VTSAX if you're at Vanguard. Don't overthink this. Just buy index funds and hold them. Step 6, every time you get a raise, increase your capture rate. Don't inflate your lifestyle. Widen the gap. Step 7, track your net worth monthly. Not obsessively, just once a month. Write down the total value of your investments. Watch it grow. This is the psychological feedback that keeps you going. That's it. That's the system. It's not complicated. It's not sexy. It's just math and psychology working together. Here's what I want you to understand. You are not behind. You are not too old. You are not too broke. You're just starting right now, today. And that's fine. The best time to start building wealth was 10 years ago. The second best time is right now. I look back at my 25-year-old self and I wish I could tell him everything I know now. I wish I could show him the spreadsheet with $173,000 invested. I wish I could explain how different life feels when you have that financial foundation. But I can't. All I can do is keep going and build the life my future self deserves. And that's what you're doing too. Every dollar you capture, you're not sacrificing. You're transferring wealth from your current self to your future self. You're building the foundation for a life where money isn't a constant source of stress and anxiety. Because here's the truth. Money doesn't buy happiness. That's true, but it absolutely buys options. It buys time. It buys the ability to say no to things you don't want to do. It buys the freedom to pursue things that actually matter to you. And you don't need millions of dollars to feel that freedom. You just need enough. Enough that you're not living paycheck to paycheck. Enough that an emergency doesn't destroy you. Enough that you can see a path forward. 5 years ago, I couldn't see that path. I was making decent money and I had nothing to show for it. Now I can see exactly where I'm going and exactly how I'm going to get there. And honestly, that clarity is worth more than the actual money. So start today, not tomorrow, not next month after you get your bonus. Today, set up that automatic transfer. Even if it's just $50, even if it's just $20, do something. Because the compound interest you're missing right now isn't just interest on money, it's interest on time. And you can't get that time back. I tracked every dollar for 5 years, and I'm going to keep tracking for the next 5 years and the 5 years after that. Not because I'm obsessed with money, because I understand that wealth is built in the invisible moments. The automatic transfers you never see, the lifestyle inflation you avoid, the raises you capture instead of spending. This is how it actually works. This is how regular people with regular incomes build real wealth. Not through secrets or tricks, or by depriving themselves of everything they enjoy. Through systematic, boring, consistent capture. You can do this. You absolutely can do this. The question is, will you? If this video helped you, hit that subscribe button and give it a thumbs up, and actually do the thing. Set up that automatic transfer today. Your future self is going to thank you.